They keep a list. Right now, they have to have what they call a bullpen. Who's going to be the next governor? You have Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer has been on the list since she walked into the state legislature when I was there. And she was somebody who they always thought would be a star. They
Way back
her,
in the 90s?
Way back in the 90s. They called her a rising star even back then. They called Kwame, why? Pedigree. Her father is Dick Whitmer. He was the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield for about 20 years. He was probably the largest funder in the Democratic Party over the course of that time in Michigan, particularly for organized labor, UAW. Right. He was their guy. And so she grew up in that. Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, Bernard their son is going to be somebody. He's won. Then they look at how you won your race. And so they put you down, and then the different organizations within the Democratic Party come after you. The ultra-liberal organizations, the environmentalists and all that, and then some of the conservatives organizations like Democratic Leadership Conference. Clinton comes out of the DLC. The DLC is like the conservative end, or what they call the moderate end of the Democratic Party, which is now dwindling away because the ultra-liberal part of the party is really winning right now.
Yeah.
But they put their hands around me. I joined the DLC my first year. They came after me and all this kind. I was like, yeah. I went to D.C. I went to London. They took me out to London. You know, I'm from Linwood and the Boulevard.
Yeah.
I'm 26 years old. They say, man, come on to London to this conference with Clinton. I went out there. And then a few years later, I get this invitation to come to the White House and ride in his motorcade and on Air Force One. And so they start grooming you throughout. But you have people like Reagan or a person like Biden.
Yeah.
That it's hard for him. He doesn't have the energy to do it like that.
Yeah.
And
well, he's been in politics for
a long time.
No.
And so his friends in politics are not the young guys.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton appealed to younger guys when he was there.
So he was a monster in real life then, like as far as like his go-getter attitude.
Man.
And
he wrote policy. He developed policy. He had his own ideas about policy. Most presidents don't do that. Obama was in that vein, but Obama couldn't galvanize. His star power did, but as far as him doing the tactical, because he always won because he was popular.
Yeah.
He didn't win because he was on the ground. He didn't,
right.
You know, really putting stuff together. And so he was the party, which is why when he left, Democrats took a hit.
Yeah.
So that's when Trump came in, and Trump was outside of the dynamics of the Republican Party, and he was a free agent.
Yeah.
And so both parties were able to organize differently. But it's been tougher for the Republican Party to organize because there's no single message. They are having the same problems Democrats have had throughout the 80s and 90s, where you are Democrat, but you're not for abortion.
Yeah.
You are Democrat, but you don't want a tree hug. You believe plants should exist. We should be building some industry. So you don't have a place in your party. That's what's happening in the Republican Party because the Trump folks, our way or the highway, you know.
It seems like he single-handedly disrupted, and I'm not even gonna say politics, but the Republican Party in itself, because it was the first time that I had seen that people within a party started infighting publicly about whether or not they should support a specific candidate that obviously was going to be the president of the United States or was going to be a candidate for representation for Republican Party for the president of the United States. But it didn't stop there. It's still a thing, and that you still see people trying to figure out, because he wasn't a John McCain, right?
No.
John McCain, regardless of whether he lost or not, still had the support of the Republican Party regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Trump is like super ultra, which is weird to me because I was hearkening back to the conversation that you and I was having, and that most communities play both sides, right? And if you look at his history, he's played both sides.
His whole life.
He's played both sides.
Al Sharpton was at his cocktail table.
Right.
I mean, and then he'd go somewhere and do something with somebody else.
What do you think happened and that once he became president, do you think it was just that he was so much of a maverick, or do you think that he really truly believes what it is that he's saying to the people as far as being ultra Republican or all the way on the right?
I think Donald Trump is the ultimate visionary for Donald Trump, not for the country. not for the Republican Party. He likes to win.
Yeah.
And when he's playing for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he saw an opening there. When you look at the Tea Party, and I moved to Texas, and the Take Our Country Back movement, it just fizzled. But these were a whole lot of poor whites that were feeling like they were locked out of society. You're hearing stuff like affirmative action. You're seeing the first black president. You're doing all this kind of stuff. And my neighbors in Texas had signs. We want our country back. I remember my Ken. I hope he see this. White guy, white family, cool guy. He had a sign out there. His kids are playing with my kids and everything.
Yeah.
I went next door one day. I said, "Hey Ken, man, what's going on? Hey Kwame, how you doing?" I said, "Man, who we getting our country from?"
Yeah.
He said, "What? Oh, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree and all that stuff." I said, "Wait a minute, I might agree. This is our country." But I used to mess with him all the time.
Yeah.
But it's this. He tapped into that disdain and dissatisfaction, and he pressed the gas.
Yeah.
He said things that they've always wanted to say.
Yep.
He came and became their open mic for everything that they were feeling inside but couldn't say at work. They couldn't say in the streets. And he gave them the freedom to be able to say it, and therefore it ripped apart the Republican Party.
It did.
But Donald Trump was going to win that office because he managed to tap into the outrage. Now, the outrage is spilled over. It's spilled over to the streets. You got the Black Lives Matter stuff. And so now some people just say, we don't want it to be that bad again. So we got to see. We got to see if this outrage works a second time. And I don't believe that the country wants the environment, so I don't believe it'll be helped. See, a few years ago, I think the country was all right with what was going on.
Yeah.
I think everybody was happy to tear up some of the systems that have gotten in place over the past 20, 30, 40 years. But I don't know if that's the same sentiment because of what happened with George Floyd and what's happened with the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happened with people who never spoke before speaking out, what's happened in Hollywood. And so it's pushed the envelope a little too far, I think, for people to really hold on to it again. But I like when Donald Trump is out there. Now, this has got to be, listen, I like when he's out there talking. He said the other day that the most corrupt organization that we've ever seen in America is the FBI.
Yeah, he did say that.
And I saw people on television saying, "Oh, I trust the FBI more than him, black people." I said, "Man,
why would they?
I trust the FBI more than him." I said, "Wow, this is an opportunity. We don't have anybody that just doesn't go and grab the Republican or the Democratic agenda and just have an agenda and say, wait a minute, let's talk about this."
Yeah.
What he's saying, we're talking about somebody who has his whole life been a business maverick in the greater white business systems.
Yeah.
And he's saying, "Oh, I know the system doesn't work. I've played it. I paid the system. He's saying the FBI is the most corrupt organization when we've been saying this kind of stuff for years and nobody listens. It may be an opportunity to partner with some of the things that are being said and having our own discussions, not just out of pocket saying this guy's nuts. And I think that is the problem with our community. We're so beholden to a party that our issues are never really dealt with properly by any political party.